7 o'clock having arrived, I'll call the Community and Economic Development Authority to order. The next item on our agenda is the roll call.
Arata Frada. Cleary.
Here.
Gallos Veos.
Here.
Hamilton.
Here.
Hardy. Potts. Wheeler.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. The next item on our agenda is approval of minutes. We have the minutes from May 27th, 2021. Those were provided in your packet. Are there any corrections regarding the minutes? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I move to approval of the minutes. Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, voting on the motion, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those
Aye.
opposed, nay. The minutes are approved. Item number 4 is public appearances for non-agenda items. I don't believe we have anybody in the council chambers for a non-agenda item.
No, sir.
We have no one who is registered? Okay. Item number 5 is resolutions and ordinances. We have none. Item number 6 is our Promega presentation, and I'll turn it over to Mike for introductions.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. We're delighted this morning to have our colleague and friend, Penny Patterson, who's the Senior Director of Communications and Marketing Services for Promega Corporation. And sometimes we get so busy with the day-to-day activities that we don't necessarily step back and kind of get some updates from one of our important partners and collaborators here in Fitchburg, Promega Corporation, one of our major employers. And so we thought that this might be a good opportunity to have Penny come out and give us a really good update and presentation on Promega's activities, their impact within not only the biotech and science industry, but also within our community in the city of Fitchburg with all the projects that we've been partnering with them on and working collaboratively and together. So we delighted to have Penny join us this morning to give us an update. So thanks, Penny.
Thank you, Mike. And I really invite conversation. So if you have questions or you want to talk about something while this is going on, this is a presentation that's never been given before. We sort of put it together for this committee. And I'll start working on getting to the presentation while we're chatting here. But we really wanted to share a few things with you, thinking of sort of what would be most helpful. And hang on, let me just get to the moment of the presentation. And so we thought, really 4 things actually might be helpful, just in terms of an update. And those would be, is it sharing? Not yet. I knew that. 4 things might be helpful. One is talking about COVID and how we were involved in that. The other one is just talking about the business in general. What the heck is it that Promega does? It's a question we ask ourselves every day too. So it's a known question. Also a little bit about the people who make Promega happen and what we do with them and for them. And then community, some of the ways we've been engaged in community throughout the years, as well as a few of the more current things that happened through COVID. So that's kind of the plan for the presentation, but I really do invite questions along the way. And I'll try to keep my eye on time too, because yes, I have no idea how long this is going to go. So I'll try to keep you. I hope you all have coffee. Yeah, right. Some water here. So let's see if this is going to make it. There it is. So I thought we'd start with just sharing quickly what we did for COVID. And what happened, because it was pretty significant for Promega. And before we just give you a quick sort of video summary of that, a quick primer for you, we'll get into more about what we make and what it does. But the 2 elements that really were a part of COVID were the reagents, these little solutions, chemistries that work in cells, as well as the instruments that some of those reagents work on. And the other thing you should know before you see the video is the areas we touched the COVID pandemic were in working with clinical labs and the diagnostics they did to run the tests. Also, as a part of that, the sample preparation, whether it was pulling samples to diagnose or it was pulling samples to research, both in getting the sample as well as in analyzing it. So those are sort of the three general areas. And when I say sample, I mean that sort of once they took the nose swab, what happened after that? Our chemistries would kick in and support some of that. So with that, I'm going to jump over to a video, and Scott and I have fabulous choreography behind the scenes to bring that to you. And I think, Scott, you're just going to grab it, right? And so this is just a short video. It's part of our Promega yearbook that we share with our employees every year about what happened this year. And of course, we had a COVID chapter and pulled that out to share with you all. So hopefully it'll kick in.
Promega, which will be producing the important reagent materials to be able to do the testing for COVID-19.
There has been a global effort in optimizing the methods and tools that enable the detection of the viral genes within wastewater systems.
We initiated a project to detect antibodies against the SARS-CoV-2.
We sought to create a solution that would allow the analysis of the samples without having to perform sample extraction.
Like Promega and Madison are helping meet the growing demand for tests.
We provide the chemicals that allow the researcher to get that material and use it in a way that informs them of if someone has COVID-19 or not.
Promega makes a number of different reagents that are involved in all steps along the way in the testing process.
So that gives you just a little bit of a snapshot on what we did. And whoops, coming back to the presentation. And as a part of that too, I don't think we had some of the details in there about getting to my presentation and talking at the same time, multitasking. COVID has really taken its toll on my brain. But that we added a couple of shifts, probably hired about 100 extra people, and some of those were project folks that then went to full-time. Thank you. And we should be, and there it is. And so those are just some of the stats around what we did for COVID. And I think you got a fact sheet that it was a little bit longer in terms of how we were engaged and involved, and happy to chat about any of that at any time. And feel free, like I said, to ask questions along the way. Oh, you didn't share it? Okay. It's coming. We'll follow up with, we have a fact sheet about just sort of the work around COVID, as well as maybe a couple of links of things you might want to check out later, and just if you want to explore more. So for some of you, there might be some repeats in here if you visited us before, and some will be fresh information, but we kind of wanted to talk about the business, the people, and the community. And in that, I peppered in a little bit of the COVID story, so you can see how COVID emerged within the context of Promega. So it sort of brings it to life that way. So in terms of the business, you're looking at the first lab that landed in the Fitchburg area that started, Bill started, actually his very first lab, you should know, was in the UW-Madison. and that was for a year. And the story goes that his professor at the time, because Bill had this idea about making enzymes, and the professor at the time said, well, you know, it's an interesting idea. In a year, if it works for you, you know, you can head out and start your thing, and if in a year it doesn't work for you, you can head out and start your thing. So Bill had a year for proof of concept, and so that's how it started. We've always been grateful to the UW and the collaborations we've had over the years. Them living in our backyard for all of us has been very beneficial. But the point I wanted to bring up too is that early days of Promega, some values were established that never changed. And those values, you're going to start to hear and appreciate those when we talk about the business, the people, and the community and how we've grown, because those have been the guiding lights more than any single product or technology. So the idea that truly the products do have to be high quality with an attention to detail. We find people coming back again and again because of the quality and the dependability of what Promega offers. Long-term growth, thinking about the long term and having a partner like Fitchburg to think about the long term with has made it very beneficial. You know, some of our buildings today have a lot of white space in them to grow into. That white space became mission critical during COVID. And then flexible organic development. So you don't see us buying up a lot of other companies. We grow as we naturally progress with science. And because of that, you'll see that how we grow is, it has so many different ways, so many different possibilities if you're willing to be flexible, because science moves in so many different ways. So this is the beginning, the lab in Fitchburg, when it landed in Fitchburg, and then it's kind of changed since then. This is sort of an overview, and I'm going to jump quickly. This is a screenshot. I'm going to jump quickly to our online interactive map. We're really challenging our technology today, so we'll see what happens. Over here is the upper lab, the little lab you just saw. So it's still on campus today, but I'll just quickly dance around some of the areas. Our facilities team is in Da Vinci. Faraday was our other first primary building. Woods Hollow we'll talk about later. The Children's Center. As we move our way around the parking ramp, this R&D center was our first building that we built. The parking ramp, a lot of photovoltaics you're seeing in our buildings. We're going to come back to Kornberg, which is the newest building. We'll peek inside that. Feynman Center was built really to serve the clinical market and their needs. The BTC, which many of you know from the annual lunches, that's also open to the public in the sort of front house of the building, is a manufacturing building as well. Off here in the corner, Nobel Drive, an area we purchased recently, does our instrument manufacturing. And let me just pull this down. Kepler Center over here, which does a lot of the logistics and product finishing. Yes. It's not changing. Oh, are you seeing the Oh, you're not seeing it. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I just went through that whole thing and you probably thought I was nuts. You're not, so are you seeing? Oh, I'm sorry to see that. All right, well, I think we'll just leave that then. Yeah, okay. Okay. I figured out how to do it, but it would take too long. Okay. Sorry, friends. Huh? Huh? Well, I think if I just share from the other, let's see, if I stop sharing. Hang on a minute, friends, and then we'll see if we can. Don't fall asleep. Huh. Oh, here. Hang on. I have a new idea. The window. Oh, it's not working. It won't work. My idea won't work. Sorry to overpromise and underdeliver on that one. So we will just continue on. But I will send you a link to the interactive map because it is a pretty cool. It's a pretty cool interactive map, and it shows a lot of the different capabilities, a lot of the different locations, and it's kind of fun to just sort of play around with. So sorry you didn't see those. Moving on then. Guess you won't see inside Kornberg today. But you're welcome to come over anytime, by the way. If you want to just come in and take a sneak peek, and, you know, we'd love to bring you in. And you might want to set your calendars for the end of September, because we are hoping for our public grand opening for Kornberg then. So I don't know if that's official, but it is now. So just so you know, it'd be fun. A few highlights about the business then. So we started in 1978. Our annual revenue is about $775 million, 1,800 employees around the world. About 1,000 of them are here on our campus or report into this campus in Madison, Fitchburg. And then the 4,000 products. We serve over 100 countries. And so in terms of managing logistics, global logistics out of our Kepler Center, it's worked very well, and our logistics team's amazing. But it's amazing, frankly, what you can do right here from Fitchburg. And so a part of that is, you know, I sort of was keeping that in mind as we're talking about what Promega is doing today. Another way of just looking at our world, you can see all the different, the purple dots are our branches, they're sort of sales and marketing offices. We do have a little more manufacturing in other parts of the world, in Shanghai as well as in Seoul, Korea. And then the rest are, those blue dots are distributors around the world. Oh, we also have some manufacturing in San Luis Obispo, California. Our organic chemists are there. This is an interesting statistic and a little bit different than usual because of COVID. So you see over half of our sales are in the North America region, the rest around the world. Usually that number's a little more 50-50 or more. Sometimes more than half our sales are outside of North America. And those sales, who they go to, is sort of, we haven't really gotten into what the heck does Promega do at a sort of more granular level. So I'll start with who uses our products. And it really starts with the academic government market. That's where we began, where researchers were trying to really understand how life works at a cellular level. That's molecular biology. But as they understand and as you know, sort of new applications come to life, we follow those applications. So pharma biotech started inventing drug and managing drug discovery differently the more it started to do and learn. We all know about genetic identity, CSI, human identity there, Ancestry.com, that sort of thing. The clinical diagnostics, which I talked about earlier, more lab tests in terms of diagnostics are happening with the technologies around molecular biology. So that was the test for COVID, and understanding do you have a COVID virus or not used a lot of our tools. And you'll see that in just a second. And then also applied in viro testing. So this world of molecular biology and the tools and the learning that come from it continue to expand and continue to be applied into new places, whether you're looking at the genetics of a plant or you're doing wastewater treatment for COVID. So there are a lot of different ways you can apply the tools and the learning from molecular biology. So just to sort of explain quickly, so again, more granular, what the heck is this? The reality is what's inside a cell is crazy. It's a crazy machine in there. It's packed, lots of stuff going on. So in order to understand what turns on and off, in terms of what makes good stuff, what doesn't make good stuff, a la cancer research, also understanding and pulling out DNA or RNA, which is what they did for COVID testing. They had to pull out the RNA out of that mass of craziness. You need tools, and we create the tools and the technologies that help do some of that. You can see there's a lot of things in there. We don't make them all, but we make a fair amount. And those tools come in two forms for Promega. They come in the reagents, the chemistries that go in and ride along or pull out or separate or watch what's happening inside of a cell, and then the instruments that read that information or prepare that sample. So that's essentially what we do. But the world of life inside a single cell is fascinating, and we could have a whole other meeting on that. Of course, you need a scientist then. So this is just, and it's, I don't know how well you can read it, but it's an example of showing the possibility and the potential. And so when we talked earlier about the values of long-term growth, flexibility, and organic growth, This is the proof point of it. So rather than living just with the academic world or living with just one product, the reagents and enzymes that Bill started in that first lab at the UW, we have grown tremendously because science has learned and grown with it. So today you'll see at the top, we serve all those groups that we just talked about, the academic, government, pharma, bio, et cetera. And then we serve them with different kinds of technologies. Some of them prepare samples, whether it's a DNA sample from a crime scene or what have you, it's pulling out DNA, RNA. Some of them are looking inside the cells, looking at what the proteins are doing or how proteins are created, or how good and bad in that regard. And this bottom line, called segment services, if you can read it, is really about a fascinating part of the business, which is the custom part. So more and more, we're able to create custom products, which became essential in COVID. So if you overlay how did COVID live within the context of our business overall, this is what it starts to look like. These were the tools. We had about 50 of them out of our 4,000 that were very critical for COVID testing, both for sample preparation, sample analysis. Again, that's the swab idea. So once they took the swab, and we took it from there. And then also appreciating, not only are you reading the swab, but scientists were finding new ways to understand how prevalent is COVID in a community, and that was the wastewater surveillance. Well, we had tools that could look at that as well. And so our applied and enviro testing group was the group that was ready to say, hey, I can take that tool and give it to these folks who are doing wastewater testing. We also have our own internal group, this application development group, that takes our tools and says, okay, you want to use this tool for a new application? Let's see how it would work, what you would need to do, and what kind of data you would get. So we help them convert those ideas into action. And then lastly, we just talked about it, the custom. So being able to custom and OEM manufacture for others. So we sit inside other people's tests. And we're not sure how many COVID tests there are around the world, but I think it's fair to say we're in at least about 50% of them. So that's a rough guess on our part, don't hold us to it, but because tests come in all sorts of forms, some are officially labeled, some are created by clinical labs, but we're in a fair amount of those officially labeled tests. So we show up in all different shapes and sizes. This is just to give you a quick shot. We have about a 1-minute video here to share what manufacturing looks like at Promega. Off you go, Scott. You're doing great. And then you'll have to live through my recovery of coming back. Oh. Or we could just watch this one again. He's going to change it in just a second. Let's try it. The music's the same, though, so it is a little confusing. And again, anyone is always welcome to come visit if you want a tour of the manufacturing capabilities. The fact that we had manufacturing suites that were very flexible in Feynman allowed us to scale up to those other 2 work lines that we had going, those other 2 shifts that we added during COVID. We've now since scaled back one of the shifts. I think we have 2 shifts running now versus 3. It's getting close.
Just so the CETA members know, I have this presentation, and I'm going to send it out. I wanted to make sure that everybody gave Penny their full attention this morning and weren't watching the slides, including the videos. So that'll come out with the links and the products after today's meeting.
you. I think we're done with our videos now. So our choreo, so nice job, Scott. We made it. Now we come back to the presentation. So that's a little bit about manufacturing. Once things are produced then, let me just bring it into presentation mode quickly. They go to the logistics center. They're finished, some are finished there. Hang on here. And this is where things are shipped. So this is the Kepler Center that I was trying to point out before it didn't work out. And we have that super cold storage as well as ambient temps. So this is where everything goes, domestic and international. And also, once the products are out, then of course they're serviced, where we support scientists around the world. I won't go through all of these, but I do want to point out the technical service scientists. Those folks help everybody, and they help them until the problem's solved or until they agree with the customer that the problem can't be solved. And frankly, they've helped plenty of customers who are dealing with our competition's products too. And their mission is strictly to help the customer get to the next stage of their research. So they're a tremendous group. They work in 13 different languages, and they do amazing work in supporting our customers. Another way that products are stored is through our on-site stocking program. A lot of places have their own freezers with products inside. That's not unusual, but what is unique is the fact that ours has an RFID technology. So Bill saw the old, for some of you, might be too young for this, but the old mobile speed pass concept a million years ago and said we could do that for products, and did. And so we've had this on-site stocking program so people can stock a freezer full of Promega products, swipe a card, get their stuff. That was an idea that was bigger than Promega, and it turned into Terso. And so, as you know, Terso, also in your backyard, took that idea, not only created freezers and cabinets, but created the kinds of things that hospitals and folks who, and businesses who have sort of very expensive inventory need to manage, both in the field for the sales folks. So those are the mobile cases where salespeople are going around sharing, here's, a joint, different, it could be for ocular needs, it could be for physical needs, and all sorts of things. I think they're in about over 500 hospitals around the world. So whether it's a mobile need or whether it's on-site in the hospitals, they have all these different formats. So when you bring Terso and Promega together, every few years, we sort of look at our impact in the region. And we see that that impact lives at about $1 billion a year in Wisconsin today. Van de Waal and Associates does the report for us. And just something that is, I think, very meaningful to people within the community is the fact that over half our vendors are in a 50-mile radius of Promega. So whenever we can, we work close because there's tremendous convenience and tremendous sort of innovation that happens when you can work closely together. And COVID has taught us how to be virtual in new ways, but those close relationships still are very valuable and have been very valuable for us during COVID. So I think that's sort of a fun point. A little bit about people. So this is a poetic representation of a cell, because we all know it's usually jam-packed. But the point of this image is simply that this is our org chart at Promega. And the point of that is that we don't have hierarchy, we have interdependency. We all need each other. And as a result, we think about that in terms of the individual. And this was a statement that Bill put out in an annual report in the 90s. So you see a lot of the ways we live, we've been living for quite a while. But the point that it comes down to each individual and their potential. And the more we surround them with the ability for them to realize their potential, the better off we'll all be. And so we do surround them. We surround them with different programs and wellness, which I'll just give you some quick highlights on, around self-awareness, which is so critical. You gotta know who you are before you know how you're showing up with others. Being creative, we need imagination in our work. And celebrating, which is one of the sort of core elements for strong culture. I'll hit those just very quickly. So in wellness, we do have our own wellness center where employees can come anytime they need help and they just want something looked at. Our own fitness center, the Promega Farm, also on the virtual map. And then we have a number of benefits, but this one in particular is unique. It's caregiver leave. So it allows employees to take time off, not only for maternity, which is sort of the typical, but for any kind of care you might need to give your family. We know as we go through life, our family members and our sort of extended families need care at all times. And so we've tried to extend that to our employees, and it's been super meaningful to them. Self-awareness, a program around emotional and social intelligence. We have a team who actually does programs around that. Core of that is mindfulness. But the idea, the whole ESI, we call it, ESI was also a critical component during COVID so that we could take care of each other. We knew how we were feeling. We knew, we could appreciate how others were feeling. We had a lot of appreciation in the company, a ton of thank you videos. I think we made more thank you videos in the last year than we've ever made. But that capability was some glue for us during COVID as people were so separated and just sort of so disoriented. They knew how to settle themselves down, and they knew how to connect with each other. Also, celebration, something that the bill really is just it's so important. And you read, culture requires celebration and coming together to have a strong culture. A few things here, we celebrate milestones of employees every year from 5 to 40 years, and we name them and celebrate them and have a big event. Certainly team building, but also in the lower left-hand corner, our annual Oktoberfest, started by an employee who loved to brew, and now we have about 60 scientists brewing beer. And it's a huge event. And if you've ever had beer brewed by a scientist, you know you need to be careful. So, so it's just a fabulous and fun event. Creativity, providing creative spaces, creative opportunities. There was a tie-dye workshop. Everyone wanted to bring their lab coat and tie-dye that, as well as the art shows that are open to community as well, up in the upper right-hand corner that we have quarterly, and we're starting to look at bringing those back. Probably this fall, we'll start shooting to bring our art shows back, and so we're looking forward to that. And that might seem like a lot to give employees and think about employees, but this is why it matters. It matters because the work and what happens in the company is tremendous. There's not only you always want to have invention in a biotech company. We don't have recalls, or we haven't had recalls. And our accuracy rates are incredible, and actually they were higher during COVID. Our turnover rate is low, and our leadership tenureship is about 18 years plus. So we hold a lot of institutional knowledge, and some of our team members have actually been resources for our customers who see more frequent turnover. We've held the historic understanding of a product or things that we've made for them. So that kind of attention to employee and appreciating their whole life has come back to appreciate high-quality performance, which we're thrilled to have. Quickly on community then. So certainly in thinking about community, we think about the environment. And a few things I just want to point out about that is when that first building was built, the Promega team was thinking about the environment, and they made sure not to break the tree line. And they made sure to integrate it with with the land and create the prairie swale, and all sorts of things happened. Well, since then, more things have happened. The latest building, the Kornberg building for our R&D team, has all sorts of elements. I won't go through all of them that are sustainable. But collectively, this building is about 65% more efficient than if it were built in a traditional fashion because of the things that have been done. The one I will point out, because it's just so unique in the U.S., it's called the double skin facade. Well, I hate that reference. That is the architectural reference. And basically, it means it has two walls. It's built like a thermos so that it can contain and manage temperature inside much more easily. And it also allows us to open windows and close windows. When do you see that in a large building? So we're eager to share what it's about and what's inside and the people who are working there. Also, we just released our corporate responsibility report yesterday. Press release went out. So we'll send you a link to that as well. We made our our goals for 2020. We've set new goals that do include about a 50% reduction in emissions by 2030, and that is indexed to growth. So we're trying to allow for growth, but also reduce along the way, even with all the efficiencies we start with. Other things in community that you might be interested in or are aware of, the Woods Hollow Children's Center, which has been around since 1991. That organization is about 2/3 community families and then 1/3 Promega employees. They do tremendous work in supporting children at young ages from about 6 months to 3rd grade. The BTC Institute has supported tens of thousands of students over the years. As a matter of fact, now we're hiring some of the original students of the BTC Institute's program at Promega. But the BTC Institute was the first place that kids in Wisconsin could have a hands-on experience in understanding molecular biology. Since then, of course, it's grown tremendously, but it was exciting to be one of the first. Promega in Action, a really fun program for our employees where they can apply to take a week off, a paid week off to give back. And you're seeing in the bottom, it's actually our team, our corporate affairs team. We were over at Lacey Farms harvesting for, I think it was St. Vincent's, the farm there, for the food pantry. And then we also think of community in terms of our scientists, so our young scientists. This is an international, iGEM is the handle that we talk about, that's for young scientists who are inventing some incredible things and supporting them there. The DOORS program, our North America branch, started recently to bring in more accessibility and diversity into the science field with scholarships there. And then lastly, I just want to come back to COVID and community together and some of the ways Promega sort of stepped in and was a part of efforts in COVID. So you saw early on working with the Wisconsin Health Department. That was in tandem with Exact and EPIC too, and trying to accelerate testing. Other things that happened, not a lot of people know about this one, but our logistics team, that gang over in the Kepler Center, they helped distribute the COVID tests to schools around Dane County because there was no logistics sort of capabilities, so we lent some of our infrastructure to help with that. City of Madison, you might have heard about us vaccinating the police. We did check with Fitchburg. You guys were already on your way with the police, but we did have a chance to support you with the senior center and senior center volunteers and vaccinating there. We were very careful around the vaccinations. We wanted to do our part. We have a wellness center. We have a chief medical officer. We also are not a public facility, and so we did try to find and strike that balance of support without overreaching beyond our capabilities. And so I'll just leave you with this sentiment that Bill has had for decades. This is an old quote. Maybe some of you have seen it before, that you can't measure success purely by quarterly financial statements. And as a private company, we don't have those, actually. But you must look over many years, see how a business makes a positive impact on community, embracing creativity, education, and opportunities for growth. So that's a little bit about Promega today, what we're doing in all those realms. I hope it was helpful. Feel free to ask questions. Feel free to come visit us. And if you have anything sciencey, I'll have to go check with my colleagues.
Great.
And I can stop sharing. Oh, good, you did it for me. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I have a few questions. I'll start and then turn it to the rest of the group. So the CMC facility over on Sub-Zero Parkway, could you explain how that kind of integrates?
Thank you. Yes. We're still working on it, so I haven't really been talking about it. I mean, it's almost finished. So we talked about the technologies that, I mean, it will work in a number of ways, but to get sort of specific, we talked about the ability to look inside a cell and see what's going on. And we talked about that some of our manufacturing is in San Luis Obispo, California, with organic chemists. Those two things, seeing what's inside a cell and those organic chemists, create a whole area of technology for us called bioluminescence. So Firefly, now we don't use fireflies, it's synthetic. But that is a very popular kind of technology that's used across all those groups. So what was happening in San Luis Obispo is it was getting more popular, and the facility was just too small to provide the large volumes that we needed in those components. So they're the pieces that go into, I say pieces, sort of their chemistries, that go into our products. So we needed to be able to scale up and create larger batches. Bioluminescence and the luminescent products are one of the components that we need. I'm sure we'll need more down the road, but the whole point of it is to be able to continue to grow the volume of some of our products and what we do.
So would it be fair to say it's kind of like a vertical integration approach, sort of, you're producing the components then for your products?
Well, we've always done that.
Okay.
So I would say this is, it's more about just the growth of the popularity of the products and needing to scale it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then one other question, I guess, on Terso.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, I don't know a ton about them other than, if I have my directions right, they're kind of over here, aren't they?
They're in two places, actually.
places? Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I guess could kind of explain how that integrates in again with Promega. I know it was spun off from it. But.
Right. So it's a wholly owned subsidiary of Promega, but it's spun off, hopefully this will make sense. It's spun off because the technology of being able to inventory with RFID capabilities, I mean, it's not a new idea in that, who's the big, Amazon, I think, uses it, or Walmart used it, I think, too, in terms of inventory. But to refine it in a way that it works with more sensitive and sophisticated products was its unique capability. So we said, you know what, this not only works with what we use at Promega, but this could work for hospitals who need to store very expensive products and need to track them more carefully. So products like, hip joints, or, things you need for surgery, that's always one that's used as an example, or eye lenses kind of thing. So that's where we said, you know what, Promega's not in the business of continuing to expand this technology into other markets that aren't naturally biotech. But it's a strong enough business and a strong enough potential that we think we could build it in another way. So that's where it sort of cleaved off and turned into this wholly owned subsidiary called Terso. And they've grown it tremendously to the point where they have their own software platform for companies to be able to monitor. And I'd want Terso to explain themselves better than I could, but it's kind of cool to see their showroom and what they have available. So I don't know if that helps explain anymore, but by saying this is potential for other markets, let's see if it can grow further, that's kind of what happened with it.
And Andy, Terso occupies two buildings here in Fitchburg. The former Locus building here off of Research Park Drive is kind of their headquarters. And then they've got the building just south of our AMC theaters off of Commerce Park Drive for kind of their production and manufacturing facilities.
Perfect.
Okay. I do have more questions, but I can reserve my time if anyone else would like to go next.
Yeah. I can make a comment. So thank you, Penny, for the presentation. It was great. So this one gave me an idea that maybe we should have a CEDA meeting to bring every meeting some business from the community to show us what they are doing in Fitchburg and what they are doing for the community. And I think I appreciate what the company is doing in Fitchburg, and we are very investing in the community, and what you're doing with the employees, great to see that. And also, I was, my kid attended Wood Hollow Children's Community Center, so I used one of the Promega facility, and it was great. We love Wood Hollow. It's a great daycare center. So thank you, because I know that Promega put the bill for maintaining the organization, So thank you for that. Mm-hmm. Oh, and the other question is how we can, I never done a tour of Promega.
Yes.
And it will be nice we have a couple of new elders in the council, or maybe some of CEDA members that they're new to. I don't know if we can organize it when it's possible to have some tours.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, I can work with, I don't know, Joyce and Mike and start to coordinate, but we'd be happy to give tours. And now that COVID has,
Yeah.
allowed us to get back together, we'd be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. I never know where to look if it
thank-
looks like.
Yeah, Penny, thanks again, like Julio, I echo, thanks for the great presentation. Having worked in healthcare, and have some friends who've worked over there over the years, I know a little bit about you guys, and we took advantage of your facility for meetings and things. Can we get a copy of this presentation? I don't know if you can insert the video stuff, but we, as Julia talked, from other people in the past around the city who've given us presentations, Joyce and Mike have sent us, things for our reference, not to pass out amongst our friends, of course, but
Sure.
to help us understand and remember. You threw a lot of stuff at us.
I know.
And
It's
I
a lot.
think it's great, but I'd like to look at it offline a little bit and go through it again. So that's just my request if you
You
could.
bet.
So,
Absolutely,
Thank
yeah. I
you.
think Joyce is planning on sending it with a few links as well, so,
okay.
yeah.
Thanks a lot.
You're most welcome.
Hey Penny, I've got a bunch of questions, but I'll limit myself. We'll have a side conversation.
Oh, good.
So I've always wondered, who is Promega's biggest competition?
Oh, well, it's funny because, we talked about the different groups that we deal with, the competitors shift, depending on who you're talking about. Thermo Fisher is probably one of the biggest players in the market, and so they're certainly a competitor of ours. QIAGEN, which is based primarily in Germany, also a competitor. There's Applied Biosystems, which is a part of Thermo Fisher, but they're sort of also still defined as a little bit as Applied Bio, and they are a competitor in the GI market. So those are some of the bigger names. New England Biolabs, which is a smaller group, but they're, that we consider them a competitor as well. Roche. So usually most of the players are quite a bit bigger. There are also some that are, I think we're about the third, we used to be the second or third largest privately held in the industry. Eppendorf was number one. I think there might be another German-based manufacturer that's number two, and then we're number three in terms of being in this space. But the publicly held groups are quite large.
Okay, my next question is, can you talk a little bit about what you guys did for 9/11? Because I really find that quite fascinating.
Yeah. I didn't bring that one in. And actually, it's funny that you asked, Joyce, because this is the 20th anniversary of 9/11. And so we just were talking about it yesterday. We're going back and we're talking to our employees who were a part of supporting the office, the medical examiner's office in New York on 9/11. So what our team did was we had those, we talk about genetic identity, we talk about the CSI technology. That's the same technology that's used in disasters. And it, gives people closure when they know that the remains of their loved ones have been found. And it's tough work, but it's also important work. And so that technology 20 years ago was a lot newer. And so they were, the medical examiner's office was trying to identify remains. And so we said, you can use, not only will we just obviously provide whatever product you need, but we'll provide the technical support. And we had people go out to New York and be a part of the team to look at how do you process some of these very challenging samples because of the tragedy that happened. And so that work, not only from Promega and the medical examiner's office, but the DNA analysts around the world, the learning from that has been applied in many ways. And that's a part of our, it's so funny, yes, a part of our annual meeting, the International Symposium on Human Identity. So Promega started this about 30 years ago, which is a little bit unique, is that we sponsor this symposium. It's like a gathering of DNA analysts from all around the world, and the big players come. The FBI's there, the investigative units from other countries are there. There's about 36 different countries represented, and it's a place to share the latest technologies and techniques that are used in their field, and it's like a homecoming for them, for everyone coming together and sharing that. So I sort of off-roaded a little bit on you, but it's an interesting piece of what Promega does in hosting that. There's a trade show involved that invites our competition in. It's for everybody. It's to learn the latest. And so it's become a pretty significant event for that particular community, which is a smaller community. So back to your 9/11 question. So we had a pretty integrated role in 9/11 for quite some time. And, you know, ask me in a month and I'll have details for you, because we're going back to talk to actually the lead scientists as well as the supporting scientists on that, so that we can collect it for the Promega archives as well.
Now I'm going to ask another question, because I don't know if a lot of our CETA members realize how many hotel room nights you generate with bringing in guests from all over the world.
Yeah.
I'm sure you, I should have queued you up that I might ask this question.
Yeah,
But,
I can find out, though.
you know, that because of our corporate demand, you're probably one of the biggest users of our property. So I just wanted to point that out, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can find out. I don't know what we're at right now. Well, you know, and of course this year everything's a little kittywampus because no one's been visiting, but yeah, I will take a look at that. Good question.
Were there any other questions from CETA members? Actually, one other, so obviously Fitchburg Center is not the same thing as Promega, but you are very much a part of Fitchburg Center. I guess, could you maybe talk about sort of the relationship between Promega and Fitchburg Center?
How those worlds live, yeah. So Bill was working with, I think, Johan Bjorksten at the time, and they had a lot of property around there. And so Promega couldn't manage the property per se or be that player. And so the Fitchburg Center became the entity to manage the property and the land and help develop it in accordance with the spirit of sort of long-term growth and all those values that sort of triggered in there. So those values about thinking about long-term, thinking about sustainability, they live across the entities between Promega and Fitchburg Center, but Fitchburg Center was really the property manager if lots were sold, if elements were developed, that it went through those sensibilities that, you know, you needed to have to keep things considerate of the land and that sort of thing. So it's a separate entity, but, you know, it was something that was started with Bill.
Sure. And I think especially with a lot of the community events that go on with
Yes,
Center.
yeah. So, and we're excited. The Agora Art Fair is coming back this year. Yay! So that's a personal favorite. And it actually, the story of Agora Art Fair, can I just share quickly? It's kind of a fun little story. So it began actually, Bill used to, talking about celebration, because these things start to tie together. When Promega was much smaller, Bill had a summer event where employees were invited to his property in Poinet, and they could canoe, and it was on the river or the lake or something, and they could go canoeing. And it was a tremendous fun, just sort of informal. He brought the stakes, they brought the canoes, and it was a delightful time. And, well, Promega got too big. And so Bill said, you know, I'd love to keep celebration going and something maybe for families as well, but we can't keep doing it at my property because it's just getting a little too big and those stakes are getting expensive, you know? So we explored a couple ideas. We did a car show for a little while and we just said, you know what, that's not quite going. And it was really Steve Leverance over at Fitchburg Center, who had been a part of some of these other initiatives to sort of bring summer celebration to the Promega property, had said, you know, what about an art show? And he, along with and Nikki, I can't recall Nikki's last name at the moment, but together they partnered to create this gathering that sort of grew out of this other spirit of let's have some celebration. And they've just made it amazing, I think, with bands and what is it, about 20,000 people come to that now over the course of a single day. So it's big fun. And one of my personal favorites, yeah. They do other stuff too. Hosting the farmer's market and all the rest.
I was going to say this afternoon, the farmer's market.
That's right, yeah.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments from CETA members?
Yes. Good morning. This is Norma. Hi, Penny.
Hi.
Great to meet you and hear more about Promega. Just a question regarding your workforce efforts. I'm just wondering how diverse Promega is. As it's grown through the years, I can imagine that hopefully reflecting that community that it's founded on. And also, as far as recruitment, do you tend to recruit locally, or just wondering as the workforce it's changing? Yeah, how is Promega changing?
How do we get there? It's a great question. We're learning as we go. So, boy, I could answer that question from a few different angles. I'll probably start from, in the last year, and particularly, the George Floyd tragedy, it sparked us all to wake up a little bit more in terms of inclusiveness and diversity. And so we started to reach out more to community. I would say our diversity, we knew our diversity mix within the company was not high. A part of it's the nature of the work and where you access folks and how you get there. But there's more that we could do, and we knew that. And so in the last year, we've talked to a number of community groups and started to appreciate and working with a consultant saying, you know what, we can roll out our recruitment more deliberately in more parts of community. And so our HR team is doing that. And we're also starting to work more closely with folks like the Latino Academy on occasion. I think we did just a Meet Promega event in December to learn about each other. And I actually had another employee join us in March from that. So trying to expand our level of diverse outreach as well as our spirit of inclusion in the company. I think as a global company, we know the importance of that. There's a lot of autonomy of our branches around the world, appreciating different regions and cultures. So I think we have high sensitivity to that, but in terms of our mix, we can always work on improving that. But we learned something interesting as we talk about diversity and continuing to look at that, the mix of folks and bringing in more diverse groups. We were talking to a consultant about that, and we get the message repeatedly and appreciate it. So many businesses might just be looking to fill a quota, and we weren't interested in that as much as we were interested to learn. And he said, before you even look at numbers, make sure you have a climate that is welcoming. You need to understand, what do people need to leave at the door when they come to work at Promega or work anywhere? And so we really took that to heart. And we just actually finished our climate survey where we incorporated some additional questions about inclusivity, about diversity, about openness. And I just saw the numbers pop up on the screen yesterday, frankly. And they were very positive, around 72%, 87%, feeling like we had an open workforce, feeling like we've made progress in the last year. I think all of us agree that we can do more. We just formed a more permanent group, a DEI task force, diversity, equity, inclusion, that could help make more decisions, could embrace sort of employee interests if they want to start forming affinity groups. They've always been welcome to, but try to just make that a little easier to access and activate. So I would say we are open, we're growing, we're developing, we've got more work to do. So we're always looking for opportunity there. And if you have any ideas, let us know. We're open to that as well.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for the question.
Andy, and Penny, I would just add that we provided an introduction with Penny and her team to Wade Thompson with our Healthy Neighborhoods initiative here, even at the local level and within our community.
Right. What we really started to do when the issue came up, and it was really like, we're doing things, but they're slow moving. We need to accelerate our pace, and we need to be a little more proactive. And so one of the things we said in terms of community engagement, where do we start? What do you know, it's a big topic. And where do we begin? And we said, let's begin in our backyard, where we know that there is an incredible mix of citizens and diversity is high. Let's start right here and see what else we can do. And so that was my first call, was to Mike, to say, we need to explore and understand, and you connected us to Latino Academy and some others, and then we had employees who had connections around the Dane County community as well. So out of that, we've not only formed other connections, we'll continue to grow those, but we've also created a resource list for our employees that's more specific. So if you want to engage, if you want to take that Promega in Action program, engage specifically in something that's around a DEI initiative, you know where you can go, you know who you can contact, and you know what you could do in that effort. So thank you, and thank you for helping us. It was a big help.
Julia?
So, Penny, we have been discussing last night, we have a meeting about housing and housing inventory, how it's impacting some of the big employers in Dane County that sometimes, you know, it's difficult for them to attract talent because the problem is housing. Is Promega has any initiative on housing program, or you have any problem when you need to attract or move people to this area so they can get access to housing?
Yeah, you know what? I would want to check with our recruiters to be accurate with my answer to you, Julia. I think in the past where we have found our challenges, as you know, biotech is very heavy on the coasts, both East and West Coast. So coming to the Midwest, you know, some people are like, well, you know, it's not really humming in the Midwest. I think that's changing quite a bit for a whole host of reasons. I think we're getting more sophisticated. There are more organizations around, and accessibility's better. And I think people aren't as intrigued by living on the coast as they used to be. The Midwest is a more attractive place to live. But I don't know how that specifically plays to housing and housing challenges. I know employees who've come from other places are surprised when they see the expense in the Madison area overall. But I don't think it's ever been a game changer for anybody. It's been prohibitive, but I can find out about that.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
I have one more question then. Following up with Julia, I do work in appraisal real estate, so I have seen a lot of coastal moves into the Madison area. So I do know that a lot of people are kind of working into this area in Fitchburg specifically. So, but with COVID, remote working has been a little bit more dominant. Have you shifted to the remote, or has that shifted your workplace dynamics of how that would look? Because I mean, R&D, you can't really work remote. How does that look for you guys now?
Yeah. Oh, good question. We're still curious ourselves, but what we're seeing, and I also have a personal opinion about it, but we had about a third to 2/3 of our workforce, depending on when we were in COVID, working remotely. And I'm talking specifically about the Madison area, but around the world, there's obviously a ton of remote. As we're coming back, we asked our employees, what are you interested in, right? We're seeing about half of them who were remote are interested to stay remote. And yet, what we're also seeing is people come back for a meeting or a visit. They're like, oh, I really like this. And some people are saying, ironically, I feel more productive on site, which is, ironic because people are working so hard at home. So I don't know how it'll shake out. We are moving to fewer one-for-one spaces and more sort of neighborhood spaces. So people won't have their own cube. We've never really had a lot of offices, but we don't know exactly, how much will people really stay away. We're expecting it's going to be a lot of a hybrid working, right? You work at home a couple days a week, you come in a few days a week. And that's not atypical from what we had before COVID. It's just that we'd have more of it. But we had a flexible work environment before that for folks who didn't have to be on site or on the line working. So I don't know, and I just have my own curiosity around, as people start to physically come back together, that as you live and work remotely, you're gonna feel a little left out. That's my personal theory. I don't know if that'll happen or not. But I think when you have that proximity, you have a kind of connection that's different, and you might want to be a part of it. So we'll see what happens. But I would say the biggest change we're making right now is we are moving forward with fewer one-for-one, desktops for people, and you sort of have a neighborhood you can go to.
Okay, I have one last question.
Yes, please.
So I always find that Promega is so humble when it comes to who you are and what you do. Is that more deliberate, or I think in the Midwest in general, we've learned that throughout the years, that we don't toot our own horns a lot. So could you maybe comment on that a little bit?
Sure, absolutely. I think it's a mix of things, really. And we, for a while, the company works at a global level all the time. And so we're sort of thinking about the whole world and maybe, investing deeply in a few things and community roots like the BTC Institute and Woods Hollow and the art shows, and finding a few ways that we can invest deeply and take care of and be a part of, but not necessarily talking about ourselves, whether it's locally or even nationally or internationally, because we're concentrating on the work. We're much more of a doing versus telling kind of organization. That said, we've also learned there's some value in sharing the story a little bit to demystify what's going on. And frankly, we find that what we're doing, and we're not the only ones in the world doing it, but what we're doing and how we're doing it is meaningful for people. And so if, more business can find that kind of meaning and that kind of energy for its employees, wouldn't that be a good thing? So working to share that a little bit more, which is why we look at things like the impact report, things that sort of collect our story a little bit more. We're being a little more deliberate on that, and finding opportunity to share what we do and how we do, and keep learning. I think the important thing, and this is maybe why it's a more by default than intentional, but you got to keep learning. And so as a result, you aren't really talking about yourself as much as you're trying to understand what's new, what's next, how do we adjust. It comes back to that flexibility and long-term thinking, to keep growing.
Great answer.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, last chance for any questions. All right, seeing none.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everybody, for getting up.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Penny.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the hotel room tax report considerations.
And we don't have any hotel room tax report. This is the second quarter right now, so that ends at the end of June. So probably in August, we'll have the second quarter room tax report. We are hearing anecdotally, good things as you continue to hear about events coming back, everything from Ironman to CrossFit to Epic will be starting up again, Badger football games in the fall and everything. So hopefully the trend is positive for hotel room night demand going forward.
Great, thank you. And item number 8, Economic Development Director and Committee Member Reports.
You want to go first on housing, or?
No, that's.
Okay. I'll just give you some updates, and looking forward to the next July Plan Commission meeting. There's multiple development projects coming forward, so I just wanted to kind of give you a preview of some of the applications that have been submitted. The submittal date was on Tuesday of this week. So we have the senior housing development for lots 53 and 54 in McKee Farms Park. It's on the western end of the park property there, across from the Remington Park condominiums. We've got ANDEV development that is coming forward with a pre-application for PDD zoning. If that gets approved, it would be 72 studio and one-bedroom assisted living apartments, and then 36-unit memory care facility there. And then we have in Swan Creek on the north side of East Sherrill Parkway. There's been that lot that was kind of envisioned for some kind of senior kind of community, and it's called Inspiration Point, and they're coming forward with, it would include 2 CBRF facilities that would have 4 units with 5 bedrooms each, 5 duplexes, 6 townhome product there that would have 5 units each, and then 1 townhome project that would have 6 units. So that's a good, that's kind of the last developable lot in that Swan Creek neighborhood. So we're excited to see that come forward. Then up on North Fish Hatchery Road, shifting up there, our friends at Adventure Capital, who recently opened the Terrace Point Apartments on the former juice plant and dairy site, are envisioning another project off of the Oshala Drive extension to the east that could potentially have, it's a mixed-use building that could potentially have 150 to 160 multifamily units, and then maybe 8,000 to 10,000 square feet of commercial space up there. So keep an eye out for that project. That's, again, following a pre-application for PDD zoning on that one. Then we have the comprehensive development plan coming forward for hopefully another new subdivision at the corner of Fitchburg and Lacey on the south side of Lacey Road that Payne and Dolan would be doing. So they're coming forward with their comprehensive development plan, and that would include approximately 94 single-family lots and another 16 duplex lots. And then a good connection with our presentation by Promega today. They're coming forward with an expansion of their Kepler Center facility. So they will be on the July Plan Commission meeting to add another 135,000 square feet to that facility located off of Nobel Drive. So we're excited to see that project coming forward. Then shifting over to the east side of Fitchburg, we've got the Riversong development by Marquardt Development. This is a senior housing. It'll be 4 stories, 128 independent units, and then a 3-story, 60 assisted living units over there. So that's in that Terra Vesta neighborhood that's rapidly developing on the east side. And because of the rapid growth and development, they're already coming forward with their preliminary plat for their second phase. That'll have 432 buildable lots and 33 outlots. So they'll be on the Plan Commission for their preliminary plat for that development. So those are some of the things you'll see on the July Plan Commission agenda when that gets released and comes forward. One that's not on the agenda yet, but that we're continuing to work with, we had a meeting last week with them, is the Fawside property. That's the clean fill site between Highway 14 and MM. Our friends at Royal Capital Group, who we had worked with on the Maple Lawn apartment revitalization and renovation, they've got that an option on that property and are doing some master planning. So last week we just saw some preliminary concepts for a mixed-use development that would have a variety of housing units on it, hopefully some balance of ownership to rental, and then it would possibly have some senior housing and some commercial space as well on that site. That's located in our tax increment district number 11 over there, so I'll keep you posted as that continues to go forward. And then as we continue to emerge from COVID and kind of open back up and we're able to gather again, there's a lot of upcoming events that I just want to kind of get on your radar screen. One is next week. We've got the Mariposa daycare ribbon cutting and open house on Tuesday, June 29th from 5:30 to 7 p.m. That again is over there in the Terra Vesta neighborhood. Then the Fitchburg Festival of Speed is coming back. That will be in the Fitchburg Center campus. So that's on July 10th, and that one includes fireworks again this year. So we would encourage you to come out. That's an all-day kind of bike time trial race and competition, but it's very family-friendly, and we would encourage the community to come out for that. The Fitchburg Chamber Golf Outing is this next Monday, June 28th at Nakoma Country Club. And then we've got the Fitchburg Biz Outdoors, which is going to be at Four Winds Farm. This might be one you want to check out to see the farm facility there on the south end of Fish Hatchery Road. That's on Wednesday, July 14th from 4 to 6. This is kind of a new event I think that the Chamber's doing. That's kind of the Business After 5 or an evolution of the Business After 5. So you might want to check that one out. Then concerts at McKee started this Monday. The second one will be on Monday, July 19th in McKee Farms Park, 6 to 9. And they got the Eddie Butts Band. If you haven't heard Eddie Butts before, he's a great band there. So they'll be up next for that. And then on Tuesday, July 27th, this is another one that is generating a lot of interest, is the open house that Madison Gas and Electric will be having for the O'Brien Solar Fields project. That's going to be from 4 to 6 p.m., so we're waiting to get some more details from MG&E on that event. But as you can see, as we're emerging from COVID and we can gather again, there's a lot of parties and celebrations that are going on. And I know we've got some backlog too, like Phoenix, who opened their new headquarters and their employees are moving in. We just met with them last week and are going to be coordinating hopefully a ribbon cutting and grand opening event so we can go over and see their new facility and kind of celebrate with them as well going forward. One other update for you. On Tuesday night at our last CETA meeting, you had requested that we jumpstart or relaunch the Forward Fitchburg Biz Boost loan program that we offered during COVID. And so the council approved the guidelines on Tuesday night, so we're going to put the finishing touches on that document, and then we will release that again, and we will accept applications on the 15th of each month through December 15th of this year for the balance of that money that was available in that program. And I think those are all the updates I have at this point in time. Any questions on any projects or events? Just a traffic-related update on June 28th. We'll be shifting over the traffic on Fish Hatchery Road to they've got the northbound lanes paved there, and then we'll be switching over so they can work on the southbound lanes, but they've made good progress.
Can I speak, Chair?
Go ahead.
So Mike, you mentioned that we are having the Fitchburg Festival of Speed, and there are going to be fireworks on July 10th.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, what is the outreach we are doing to the community so they know that we are going to have fireworks? Because I just found out about the fireworks right now. So, so who is doing the outreach? How we are going to promote this? And
I know the Fitchburg Chamber is helping to coordinate the planning and the marketing and promotion, of that. So I guess I'll defer to Angela and her team over there, but we can check in with them to kind of find out what marketing, promotion, and outreach they're doing. They're working with Race Day Events on the organization of the actual event for the race and the fireworks. But we'll check in with them on that, Julia.
yeah, because it's coming in soon. So.
Mm-hmm.
Mike?
Mark? Mm-hmm.
Mike, hi. A couple of quick things. One is just an FYI, particularly back to Julia's comments about events. The week after that is the move for Boys and Girls Club on Saturday, July 17th. And there will be, I'm the liaison with the Boys and Girls Committee with the city, and I've already met with Ned Hartwick a couple times. And I sent a note to all of the neighborhood associations that Ned gave me who this event will be going to. There's going to be about 500 people walking, running, and riding between 7 and maybe 11 on that Saturday. So we've done this out here for 10 years. Hold on, Julia. And I think we got everything covered, and we've notified all the people that need to be notified. Nobody's given me any feedback, and Ned Hartwick has been extremely engaged as we've done this before. So I just wanted to give the group a heads up. That's one of the things coming up. And then there's going to be a big party, Mike, as you know, that night over for their new trade center. They're raising $1 million to support a new skilled trade center. So Norma, I hope you know about this because this is going to be to help, the club members and minorities in our city get trained to have skilled construction jobs. And this is all be coming online in 2022. So Julia, you had a question.
Yeah, so I want to follow up about the Trade Center. I just got a call from MABA telling me about if I knew about this, and I know because I already been in communication with Michael Johnson. He already informed me about this project. They're coming in Fitchburg. I think they're closing the facility today or tomorrow. The other thing I want to mention is, you mentioned that I haven't received any information about the Boys and Girls Club event, to be honest with you. It's going to be Mark next time. You also send information to the elders, because the elders we have lists that will communicate with our residents or constituents in our district. So that one is another channel for you guys to.
Okay.
Well,
I'll tell you what, I'll send you what I sent them, Julio. I apologize for that. I assumed by working with Ned in the police department that we had the pieces covered. And Scott Engel, of course, gave the permit for the park. So I thought we had at least done that piece of it. But I'm happy to tell you what we've told them.
No, and I want to tell you, because I am part of the neighborhood association, that we have a list.
Right.
So we haven't received anything. I haven't received anything from the list from my neighborhood, the people that is in charge of our neighborhood, or and I haven't received any formal invitation or registration to this event either.
Right. I'll send this group the link to the website so you can see where things are going through, because they're going through Seminole Ridge. And Julie, as you know, we don't have a neighborhood association. They're going up through Seminole Forest. I sent a note to them. They're going through Lacey Heights. I sent them a note, and back through Chapel Valley. They all got notes. So I apologize. And are you in Chapel Valley or Seminole Ridge?
I am in Chapel Valley.
Okay. So I'll make sure you guys all get this communication, and I'm going to send you today after this meeting, I'll send you the link to the website, which gives you the routes. Jim, you had your hand up.
Yes, where's the Boys and Girls facility going to need to be located?
This is on, when you get the website link, you'll see where it's going to be at. It's going to be on right there on Verona, the frontage road, north of Saris. It's a Thermo Fisher building, and I will tell you that it's already Michael Johnson's already put out the announcement. Somebody's given 1.5 million, John McKenzie, to buy this building. And what the Boys and Girls Club Ride is doing is raising money to endow it to operate into the future. I've been on this committee for 10 years. And so it's a great event. And I promise we've never had any issues with the city that Mike and Joyce can offer up here with having this in that park for those 5 hours in the morning. They're only going to be in the park, in McKee Farms Park, from 7 to about 1. So, and it's going to be, instead of 1,200 people, it's a virtual event as well as a in-person event, and they're expecting maybe 400 in person between the walk and the 3 bike routes. So, the other area we're going, I forgot to say, the 8-mile route is going through Swan Creek. And I sent their association a note because we got permission to use the Cap City Trail as well. So anyway, I'll send Mike and Joyce this link as soon as I unmute myself again, and you guys can look at it. If you got any questions, call me. I'm just on the committee, but the white party that they're having, and the in the evening at the Thermo Fisher building, and the bike ride during the day is all on this thing. So, is there any other questions about that? Okay, can I ask one more question of Mike of your presentation? And also, this is probably to you, Julia, as the alder for the area. The senior center that's being proposed to go in over there on Wilshire by McKee Farms Park, is that moving forward? Question 1. Question 2, I know in the past there were concerns from the neighbors over there about facility going in. It might have been a different one. But my third question goes back to our role as CETA. Is there still that much of a shortage in the city that we need more senior housing, or do we need more other types of housing? So it's a question more than anything else.
Well, I don't know, Mike, if you want to. I have information about this. It's going to be a memory care and assisted living facility, and they are moving forward. They are going to be in the plan commission, in the next plan commission meeting. And according to the market research that some of these developers are doing, they say that there is a need for that type of facility.
Okay.
And we had, the developer had a meeting with the neighborhood association and the neighborhood that run the area a couple of weeks ago. It was very well attended. I would say that it was a 50-50. People are, in favor, 50% are, especially the people that they live in front of the parcels.
Right.
They thought that those parcels were part of the park, the McKee Farm Park. So it was kind of like, you know what I mean? So, but I don't know, Mike, if you want to add more about this.
Sure, I can add. Originally, they were envisioning also independent housing units there, and now they've shifted to just assisted living and memory care. So I think part of that, Mark, is because of some of the other projects that are coming forward that are more in the independent space. As you might remember from our housing study when we completed that, it called for that we needed kind of over the next 640 senior housing units, kind of a mix. And so, we've made good progress on that front. We've got the 160 units of Highline senior living on Fish Hatchery Road. That's independent. We've got the resort style senior living, the high-end product that's coming behind Super Target. We've got Riversong now in Terra Vesa that will bring us independent and assisted living. Andev, the one at lots 53 and 4, that'll have assisted and memory care. And then we've got another affordable 100 units that are coming with the Limerick project at Sain Road and Lacey Road over there. So we're making good progress actually on that goal in the housing plan for 640 units. So I think the market's kind of sorting itself out where, some projects are evolving based on what they've heard from or seen from other projects that are coming. And that's why
that's why I wanted to raise it, because I've been hearing some of that same thing. And I remember the last time they proposed something over there. So that's all. I just wanted to ask the question. And my other topic, I'll get you guys this link for BGC as soon as I'm back on mute. So thanks.
Well, one thing
if you have any questions about BBC, send me a note.
Okay. One other thing I would just mention on senior housing is we lost the memory care up at Avalon. They're no longer kind of offering the memory care. So some of the existing units that we had, some of that inventory is gone that's up there. So we're kind of adding new, but also replacing some of the existing that we had previously. One other just event or announcement that I'll make, you might have saw this in Madison.com yesterday, is that Jazz at 5 is also relocating to Fitchburg here at McKee Farms Park for the 2021 season. So those performances will be August 11th, 18th, 25th, September 1st, and September 8th. And they'll be at McKee Farms Park. They worked with our Fitchburg Chamber Visitor Business Bureau to move that event to Fitchburg for at least for the 2021 season.
I have a follow-up question after Mark. How is the vacancy, or what does the occupancy look like for the current senior housing on Fish Hatchery?
I don't have a good number for you on that, Jennifer. I should check in with them. You're talking the Highline senior housing there? I think the last I heard was they were at like 60 or 70% there. I think the lease up has been a little slow there, or slower than expected. But I think part of that was due to COVID, last year, where seniors just couldn't even get out and necessarily go and look at senior housing product. And then I think the road construction has impacted a little bit some of their leasing activity as far as people getting to that property. And I know City Yagi, our project coordinator for Fish Hatchery, worked with them on even some signage to help direct people to their property through the road construction there, just because it can get a little confusing on how you get there sometimes, depending on where the lanes are and what area we're working on for traffic. On a positive note, across the other side of the road on Terrace Point, they are already I think, well over 70% leased with the new market rate project up there. And I think they're very positive and I wouldn't say surprised, but they're very pleased at the lease-up activity for that property. I think it's exceeding their expectations at this point in time.
Mike, if there is any chance that we can do a tour in that building?
Terrace Point?
Yes,
Or are you talking the Highline Senior Apartments or both?
the Highline already did it. It's the Terrace Point. Terrace Point.
Terrace Point? Yeah, I can check in with Mike and Ned. Yeah, they usually, Joyce just put a bug in my ear. They usually do a really nice kind of ribbon cutting and opening. At least they did that for their property on South Fair Oaks, the Garver Point Apartments, because Joyce and I got invited to that one. So I'm sure that they'll be planning an event, but when I'm going to be talking to them again, I can ask that question and see if they've got kind of a timeline on the horizon, because again, we'd like to see some of those. The other thing that Joyce and I talked about, and this will maybe be a segue to her update on the Housing Advisory Committee, is we might take that group out to tour a couple of properties too, just so they can see a different property types that we have here in Fitchburg and different multifamily apartment products that are in our community.
Can I speak, Chair?
Yeah, go ahead.
The other thing, all the comment that I want to make is how we need to prepare CEDA with the annexation of the town of Madison, and what is going to be the outreach that we are going to do to all the businesses that we are planning, they're going to be coming to Fitchburg. I think we need to be proactive, and we need to have a plan of how to outreach them. So I don't know, Mike, if something that we can start working or put together, or any plans?
We already have a draft communication plan put together that our planning department has been working on. And we've got a list, it's probably 2 years old, but we've got a list of all the businesses that are over there. So we probably just need to do an update to that. Couple of things in that communications plan. It calls for a mailing at some point in time. We've been talking internally here. We're not sure on what's the optimal timing of that mailing, and that would be to all the residents and the businesses over there. As you know, Julie, and as we reported at the council meeting, we have launched a website page on our website for the town of Madison. And at your suggestion, we added the video, the City in Motion video as a welcome. But that's kind of a landing page for people, and there's even a space that they can submit a question or request for information from respective departments. The other thing that Mayor Aaron had a good idea that I need to reach out to the editors at the Fitchburg Star was we wanted to see if they could already start to distribute the Fitchburg Star to the addresses in that neighborhood to start to get the word out about activities and kind of just communication from Fitchburg. So Joyce and we'll talk a little bit more. I've had a couple of businesses already reach out to me from there, just wanting to kind of establish dialogue and communication and everything. So we've had some one-on-one conversations with a couple of businesses, over there. But we'll need to do some more outreach to that neighborhood. I know we've got a city staff team that's meeting quarterly with the city of Fitchburg and the city of Madison, just as we prepare across all departments. And that includes, things like assessing, in the future, voting and polling places, over there. So it really transcends and crosses all departments here, that we are having conversations about how do we transition those different activities across our respective departments there. And again, that date where they officially become part of Fitchburg is October 30th of 2022. So I'll keep you posted as we make progress on that communication plan and outreach going forward.
Okay, Joyce, if we wanted to do the housing update.
The Housing Advisory Committee met on, I think it was Monday, June 14th. And we had Gary Gorman as our invited guest. He did a presentation on some of the affordable housing initiatives that he's been involved with, not only in the region but nationally, and some kind of creative and unique housing concepts for some areas where they've had some challenges, like in Colorado, in some of the skiing communities. So it was really informative. He offered to, really engage with our committee, so that was a great win for our group. If anybody's interested in his presentation, I can send that out to you. One other thing that we talked about, and Mike kind of touched on it, we are probably going to forego our September meeting because I'm going to be out of the country. So what our plan is, and Olivia and I and Mike have kind of brainstormed, we would like to possibly set up a tour over at Artisan Village in the town of Madison to take a look at that affordable housing project. And then we would like to tour the Highline property as well, another affordable housing project. And then we would like to also go out to Maple Lawn because that's a rehab project. So those are some things that we've discussed versus having that meeting. So we'll keep you posted on that. Just wanted to give a little brief update on the H&A engagement. As you know, last month we saw the survey results. And so Mike and I have been working with Mike and Steve on the financial modeling. They've done a lot of outreach so far to some developers, and they've also engaged with some management companies, so they're getting some really great data. Next month, they should be coming to CETA to provide kind of an overview of where they're at with the financial modeling. At that time, I'm going to ask that the Housing Advisory Committee join in at that meeting so they can hear what they've come up with so far. We're pretty excited by some of the things we're hearing, but also a little nervous, due to the cost of materials and labor and also land. So I have a memo that I'm going to send out to you guys, just kind of giving you an update from Steve and Mike, and that should come later today. That's it for me, Chair.
Thank you. Mike, you had one last thing?
Two other just housekeeping updates for you. One is that the city council will not be having a meeting on July 13th. They'll still be having the second one in July, but they usually take one off during the summer here, so there will not be a common council meeting on the 13th. And then just an update for you that on July 12th is when our current police chief, Chad Brecklin, transitions to the city administrator position. So that officially takes place on July 12th for it. So then I'll be retiring as the co-acting city administrator on that day. Misty and I will be. So Chad will officially be taking over at that time.
Mike, on behalf of CETA and as a citizen, I want to thank you, both you and Mitzi, for what you did the last couple of months, keeping the city moving forward. So I know you were wearing way too many hats, but you had Joyce there to take care of you. So anyway, thanks.
We got a great city team here that everybody kind of pitched in and helped across all departments, and everybody really stepped up to keep everything moving forward. So thanks to everybody.
Since you brought that up, Mark, and Huli asked a question about outreach to the town of Madison. On our to-do list within our department is to do a walkthrough of not only the Fitchburg business community to see who's here and who's not. We also will be doing that in the town of Madison as well. And when we do our walkthrough, that we do an introduction and we leave business cards. So every business knows within the city of Fitchburg who they can reach out to. So, and believe me, they do. So, you good with that? Oh, actually, I'm going to ask one more favor of my colleagues on CETA. I am going to send out the Biz Boost documentation, and I'm going to ask that you help me get the word out to people that we're relaunching that, because we need a team here, and as you know, Mike has been focused on a lot of different things, so we're gonna need your help in getting the word out, so I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Julia, do you have another question?
No, following with Joyce, I was thinking about, the walkthrough. I was thinking that before, and I say, oh, great that you are doing that. I think this is a great way to reach out to all of those businesses in the town of Madison. So.
All right, if we have no further economic development updates, item number 9 is announcements. Our next meeting will be on July 22nd. If no other announcements, item number 10 is adjournment. Entertain a motion. I think we had Mark and Jennifer. All right, all those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned.